time to get some water in this house. We installed this Viega Manabloc home run plumbing manifold when we did the radiant floor, and so now we're ready to actually connect it to our plumbing fixtures. I'm using PEX A. This red is left over from our radiant floor, and then I've got some blue PEX B for all the rest of the cold water fittings. I'm actually really looking forward to this job. I think it's going to go fairly quickly and easily. Don't have to worry about slope. There's no connections and in the midpoints of these pipes at all. There's no glue. It's all crimp fittings. I'm thinking this job's going to go fairly quickly, knock on wood, because it never seems to happen. This has got to be some sort of dance move. But we only have 1.5 bathrooms to plumb, the kitchen, and then 2 hose bibs. We'll be doing something a little bit special on this back hose bib. I'm gonna cover that in another video, but spoiler alert, we're gonna be doing hot and cold hose bibs. Anyway, let's get to work. To support the lines coming out of the manifold, I wanna put a block on either side. Unfortunately, they made it so that you needed something slightly thinner than 1.5 inches thick. I'm not sure if that was a design error or what, but I planed about 1/8 of an inch off this board, and I'm gonna screw one to either side. I'm gonna start with the laundry circuit, which is actually ends up way over there. So I'm going to take these bottom 2 outlets here, go underneath my gas line, up in that skinny joist bay, and then on down to where my laundry machines are sitting. Well, that was not bad at all. I hope all the rest of them go that smooth. Figure I might as well put some water to this circuit. That's the beauty of the Manabloc, is you can turn on every circuit individually without affecting all the other ones. I went with the crimp ring system for terminating this PEX. There's like the cinch ring, which is like a little spring hose clamp looking thing. The crimp ring, which is like a solid copper ring that you just crimp tighter. And then there's the Upinar PEX expansion system. I know everyone's gaga about the expansion system and how it's so great, but it's more expensive. You can't find the fittings in normal places like big box stores. And I mean, I don't see the massive benefits over it. They don't have these home run systems. They have these multi-port T's, which, yeah, I guess it works the same, kind of the same, but like you gotta have shut off valves if you wanna be able to shut off all your stuff individually. And like, I mean, I just didn't really see the benefit in doing it. So I just stuck with the PEX B. I think we're gonna be just fine with that. So let's see if it leaks. It's always really scary the first time you let water into a pipe, because you hear everything where it's all going and you're just hoping that's gonna be good. Don't hear any more flows, so I'm going to assume our valves up there are holding. Don't hear any dripping from upstairs. Cool. Okay, next step, bathroom. I'm gonna do the vanity, the toilet, and the shower up there, I think. I guess there's no real order that makes sense. I'm just gonna try to stay out of one route's way with another route, if that makes sense. I don't really want crossing pipes. I just don't think it looks that good. So I'm gonna try to keep everything as neat as possible. I've thought a bit more about how I want these to all get to the upstairs while still looking pretty neat. And I think I'm gonna go right in through this corner up here. I need 5 hots and 8 cold circuits to go between the upstairs bathroom and the kitchen and the hose bib and that sort of thing. So I've already drilled a couple little holes up there. I think I'm just gonna kind of cluster the hots, cluster the colds, and that way I won't get in the way of putting my last piece of plywood up here, and I won't clutter this whole run up here I'm gonna have to build a soffit around this eventually, so the less pipes there, the better. For our bathroom sinks and toilets, I'm using these handy little things. They're like built-in 90-degree angles for PEX. It just holds the PEX exactly where you need it for roughing. So I'm gonna set these up probably about here or so, so they're not too low in the cabinet to interfere with the stuff in there. And then the toilet, I have a similar thing. It's just a single one instead of 2, because we only need a cold water line. And I'm gonna set this about 8 inches off the floor, and then also about 6 inches offset from the toilet on the left side. The connection to the tank on toilets are typically on the left side from what I've seen. So that's the cold for our double vanities and our toilet. I know I used 2 different circuits for this, and I totally could have teed off like down below or even up here and just shared a circuit between this, but I am out of T-fitting, so I had PEX and decided I would just make 2 separate circuits for it. Had enough circuits on the Manabloc remaining, so it was good to go. Now, because I'm OCD and I want my bathroom group in the same general spot on that manifold, I need to sort of pause and think about where I'm gonna be mounting my shower valves, because to run those circuits, I need to know a few different things. Not only where the valves are located, but where the holes in my bottom plate need to go for the pipes to come up right. So a little bit about the shower. It's 4 foot deep by 6 foot wide, same width as the bathroom. Obviously it's gonna have the center drain there. And then we're gonna have dual shower heads, one on either side, and that means a control on either side as well. And because of the 4 foot depth, we really didn't wanna have the control like right underneath the shower head, because it's quite a reach to reach in there. So I'm going to be offsetting the controls closer to the door, while the shower head will remain central in the shower. This pencil line, which you can barely see, marks the 48-inch mark, which is the edge of our shower. And it just so happens about 8 inches in, I have this stud here, which I decided was a good, comfortable spot to mount the wall control. So I've put a couple pieces of blocking in here. These might have to move just slightly as far as depth is concerned, because that is a critical distance with your stack up of your waterproofing and your tile and that sort of thing, whether your trim kit will be nice and flush. So I actually have the trim kit. I'm gonna bring it on site tomorrow and I'm gonna mock that up and make sure that this is right. But I do have the roughen valve. This is called the Delta multi-choice roughen valve. And they give you this little black wall plate that when you put this up against your blocking, the front edge of this wall plate should be flush with the outer surface of your tile, your finished wall surface. So in my case, I'll have a 1/2 inch of likely Curdy board or something similar, or waterproofing membrane, and then about an 1/8 inch for our tile adhesive, and then about a 1/4 inch for tile, which makes about 7/8 of an inch. So I want this front edge here to be 7/8 of an inch proud of these studs. Now they did give me these little feet on the bottom, and I think that's about right. And so that's kind of what I went with for mounting this block, but I definitely want to double check with our actual fixture to make sure. So in order to mount this in the correct orientation, I'm going to have to drill a hole through this stud, and one of my PEX pipes is actually going to come through this stud. So I have to keep that in mind when I'm drilling my holes in the bottom plate. So my hole for that pipe is actually right down there. I already drilled it. So that pipe's going to come up along that stud, then over into here, and then something similar for this pipe here. It can remain within the same stud bay, but there's my hole for that. The mixed water going up to the shower head will come out the top there, and I've got another piece of blocking up here to mount my drop ear elbow. This wall is a little bit easier and a little bit harder at the same time. I actually am in the middle of the stud bay, so I just made a piece of blocking here with some pocket screws, and that will just go in here like this. Shower valve mounts there. But I am directly over top a joist here. So I have to be very careful in avoiding this when I drill through. This is my game plan for that. Based on this pencil line on my subfloor, that's where a joist should be centered underneath. There should also be a joist right here. So here's the center of it and then the 2 edges. So I really only have a clear space about this much without hitting the LVL top flange of these joists, which you really are not supposed to nick those flanges. I have to squeeze the pipe in just this little bit of area right here. So I'm gonna start this with a small bit so I can see where I pop out down there and make sure I'm not gonna hit the LVL flange, and then finish the hole drilling upwards. There's my hole. I stuck a little flag down through it. I actually had a little bit more room than I thought. I guess the markings were slightly off. And of course, I am directly over top my mini split. So I'll need to tape this off or something to keep the wood chips out of it. But yeah, I'm gonna just drill up as close to that joist as I can without hitting it. That wraps up all of our cold circuits for the bathroom. Now we got to do the long cold circuits for the kitchen, the front hose bib, and the ice maker. Check out my DIY PEX uncoiler. Just a 5-gallon bucket weighted down with a spool of Romex wire. This seems to be getting the job done so far. I mean, it just kind of comes off the top here. Not ideal. I know you're supposed to kind of unroll it, but it seems to work. Kitchen sink cold is done. Next is ice maker. I got one of these nice little recessed boxes off Supply House. PEX connection. Should just be able to mount this right up here. I am gonna chisel out a little bit to let this set a little bit more flush with the wall. Not like I think it really matters anyway, but I did it for the gas box, so I figured I might as well do it with the ice maker as well. feel like routing all this PEX is substantially preparing me for wiring the house, because this kind of just feels like a heavy duty wire that I'm pulling around in here. So hopefully pulling actual wire is a lot easier after this experience. Unfortunately, my 300-foot roll of blue PEX is pretty much gone, so I'm just finishing these last couple bathroom circuits down here, toilet, sink. I don't have enough for my front hose bib, which is literally at the whole other corner of the house. So thank you, Supply House. I ordered one this morning. It's already shipped. Should be here tomorrow morning, and then I'll have enough to finish that last run here. But I'm gonna get what I can done today with what I have. And once I'm done with these couple in the back here, we're ready to start hot circuits. I feel like I'm doing some sort of acrobatics. Going between ladders. Definitely not OSHA approved. I'm really thankful I decided to soffit the ceiling down in this bathroom area because it's keeping this a lot cleaner. I was gonna have to come across this whole wall with all these tubes, and it would have really gotten in the way, I think, and it would have definitely impacted where my ductwork was gonna sit. So being able to just punch a bunch of holes right here, come in through this corner, I can do it whatever I want up in this ceiling, and it's not gonna matter because the drywall is gonna be right here. Another nice thing about PEX B is, compared to PEX A, it seems really much more durable. Like, it's very abrasion resistant, and it is a little bit stiffer and tougher to work with, but this is really tough stuff. With these elbows, I found you basically got to come straight in the back. Give it a little bit of a pre-bend. There's a way to come straight in the back, and then you do the bend upwards. Just gotta bend it back up in here. Don't kink it. Staple up the stud. One thing about these guys is they do kind of flex. So you definitely gotta staple the pipe in the right orientation to keep the thing flat. I found these tubing staples with the nail already in them are excellent. They work great. And I started with a carpenter's hammer to drive them in, but I found this mini sledge works way better. It carries a lot more energy and a shorter swing. And when you're not over a stud directly, like on my plywood, that absorbs a lot of energy, and this little sledge gets it done. I feel like PEX is definitely one of the better inventions to happen to plumbing. Some may disagree and think it's just a fad, but this stuff is just so much easier to work with than rigid pipe. I mean, I can't imagine doing this with like copper or CPVC even. I mean, just not having to deal with the glue and the rigidity of the pipes and the fittings. Like, this just simplifies things so much. Any plumbers that might be watching this, what are your thoughts on PEX? Talked to a couple plumbers, and they use this stuff in hotels and commercial buildings and everything else. Buildings that are supposed to be here way past our lifetimes. It's good enough for those, and it should be good enough for this house, I guess. With the exception of my front hose bib circuit, the cold water is complete. I left a gap for the front hose bib circuit to go through. This last one is my back hose bib. I didn't want them to cross over just for neatness sake. So I'm gonna do that tomorrow when that extra blue pipe comes, and then for now, I'm just gonna keep focusing on and getting the hots done, get all my rough piping in to kind of where it needs to be. I haven't mounted my shower valve yet, so that'll probably close out today. And then I'll finish up with mounting our hose bibs. That's gonna be covered in a separate video. We're using Aquor Flush Quick Connect hose bibs. They're a really cool kind of modern take on the hose bib, which hasn't changed in many years, and I'm really excited to get them installed. Tell you what, it's really nice to have the mini splits running right now. It was up to like almost 80 degrees in here. It's over 80 outside. And because we have no insulation yet, the outside temperature becomes the inside temperature pretty quickly. Pop those mini splits on, within an hour, we're down to like 70 degrees in here. I mean, it was quick. I think that those are gonna be really handy in the summer and winter, considering the heat, they can heat too. Those ones I don't want to drive home because they're right up against these, so I don't want to crimp our refrigerant lines too tight. Kind of forgotten to tighten all these things as I go. So after I tighten all these guys up, I'm going to go through and crimp everything. These are all loose right now. Definitely don't want to accidentally turn the water on with a crimp loose. That could be disastrous. Whoa! I don't think these have to be very tight either. These are all O-ring seals in here. So as long as you're holding that O-ring and its boss, it should be A-okay. So I roughly got the kitchen circuit pulled. I think I'm gonna actually insulate that line because it's a pretty long run. It's probably like 60 or 70 feet of actual pipe length when it's all said and done. That's the only one I think I need to insulate. The bathroom is pretty much like within 10 feet or so of my manifold, 10, 15 feet. So I'm not too worried about that. But I don't have the insulation right now, so I think I gotta make a trip to the store. But this otherwise I think is not too bad. This is about 2 days of work. And I probably have about a day left between mounting the shower valves, doing those last couple runs, and then maybe a few more hours to do the hose bib mounting as well. So I'll take it. One trip to Home Depot later, we got our pipe insulation. It's only like $2 a piece, and it is split, but it's not fully split through out of the box. So I'm just gonna slide a bunch of it on and where I need it, and then I won't have to tape it all down the line. It's kind of fun, actually. It's certainly a bit more tedious to fasten this with the insulation on. I'm just using regular pipe strapping looped around and 2 screws. To join the insulation together, I'm just using some cheap electrical tape. The beauty of sliding all this insulation on is that it doesn't come unbroken and I don't have to tape down the whole seam. This 1/2-inch pipe insulation I have came out of 2 different boxes at Home Depot. They must have been different manufacturers because one fits significantly easier than the other. I thought it was 5/8-inch pipe insulation for a second, but then I double checked and it was in fact 1/2 inch. This really is a tight fit. The other stuff glides right on in full 6-foot sections, no problem. Just gotta be super careful not to kink it right at the end here. That would be a disaster. I hope this is worth something. When I'm drawing hot water from the kitchen sink and I leave it sit for 45 minutes and I turn it back on and it's still nice and hot, I'll remember this. So with our kitchen sink insulated line hooked up, that is it for the hots except for my hot hose bib here. The last thing I need to do is my cold hose bib way out front. So that's my gap in the pipe there. Let me go address that right now and we will be done with the rough running of the pipes. Still got to mount my shower valve and do the hose bibs. That will complete rough plumbing. Angle drills certainly have their time and place. Not always ideal for every situation, but when you need it, you need it. Supply house, as always, came through on the blue PEX. I think I ordered it like 10:30 2 days ago, and it showed up at like literally less than 24 hours later yesterday. Just incredible, incredible service. Cannot recommend them enough. And the best prices on most stuff. This has got to be some sort of dance move. The things we do for hose bibs. I gotta give it to PEX. I mean, I don't know how I would be doing this with CPVC. It would take me forever. It is really nice not having any joints anywhere along the pipe, except at the beginning and the end. Got the front hose bib pulled through and just in the nick of time too, because that PEX coil really started to get tangled up. So luckily I'm at the home stretch here where I can cut it and deal with that tangle. But once I get this last circuit connected, that's it for pulling pipe. The last bit of supply plumbing I have to do, and I've been pushing this off because it's gonna take a lot of thought, is this shower. Not only will it have 2 shower heads, one on either side, but it's also gonna have 2 12x12 niches here, and then the shower drain valves will be offset from the head so that it's closer to the entrance to the shower. We also need to accommodate that drain pipe over there, and what makes this even harder is that the studs don't line up from this side to that side. That's because over there it lines up with the utility room walls, and on this side I guess the Amish rammers just wanted to start with a clean 16 on center. However, this side is actually going to be easier because with that 16 on center, our niche can already fit in this bay right here, and the valve can already fit in this bay, no problem. I've already done a little bit of measuring and thinking about that. So I'm actually going to do this one first, and then I'm going to try to replicate that over here, and that's where it gets a little bit trickier because there is a stud where my valve needs to mount basically, so I've sort of blocked this out to see what I can do there. The valve has got to be basically right here. I'm gonna have to bore some of this stud out to make that happen. And then I actually have to take this stud out completely and frame up where my niche has got to be. This is also the stud that our shower head attaches to, so I put a block up there roughly where it needs to be, and that it needs to accommodate the head as well. So you can see there's a couple things to think about. Not only all that, but I have to make sure the depth of the shower valve is mounted correctly. That way with our finished tile surface, the shower trim goes on correctly. So I'm gonna make a mock-up of that to make sure our depth is right. I actually have the valve with me to try that out. So there's just a lot of things that go into this, and that's why I saved it till last, because I knew it was gonna take some thought. Here's my mock-up. I have my 2x blocking clamped between my studs, and then 2 1/2-inch pieces of plywood put together. And here is our assembled trim kit. And so I kind of figured with the 2x4 wall, they would design this so that the 2x4 blocking is flush with the back. And that's pretty much the case. I have it set in about 1/4 inch there. So when I place the mixing valve up against that, and I look at where our trim kit lands, it's pretty much centered on this barrel here. So there is some adjustability for this, which is a great thing because I'm sure every installation is a little bit different. But this should work just fine. I'm going to record that dimension there, and that will be my distance between the face of the stud and my stringer. For the shower head here, we're going at 84 inches high, which is based on our previous bathroom remodel in the farmhouse. It's just the height that we did there. We like it, so we're gonna keep it here. And then I'm going 1 inch back from the face of the studs with my stringer. That is just to keep my little drop ear elbow flush with the edge of the wood. And then the nice finished trim spout for the shower head will go back into the wall. As always, laser coming in handy, shooting the line all the way through my drain and up to where the shower head needs to mount. So for the shower head, we're going 84 inches off our subfloor, just based on a previous remodel. We really like that height. I'm tilting it at a 45 angle here because we got to clear our shower niche this way, and the PEX tube is going to be coming from this bay. So I'm just going to go to 45. As far as depth goes, I went 3/4 inches back the face of the stringer from the face of the stud. That'll pretty much put this about flush with the edge of my waterproofing board, and then it will be a little bit recessed from the tile face. Pretty solid. That one's all done and buttoned up. I think it looks pretty good. Now that was the easy one because I just had to put a couple blocks up and route everything. This is gonna be the not so easy one, and if my calculations are correct, the first thing I gotta do is chisel out a portion of this stud because this has gotta go about right here to be in line with the one right across from it. So here's what I ended up with this mixing valve. I mocked up where the niche is supposed to be, I think. It's gonna be centered on the shower, but I don't know exactly what niche I'm getting. So I basically just did like a rough opening of 13 inches. I don't wanna actually cut the stud and frame it out till I have an actual niche, but that gave me a good idea where the pipe needed to be to kind of clear that. Luckily, I was still able to use a bend. I didn't have to use a sharp elbow. Now I just gotta do the drop ear elbow. Last up is to plug these off, and then we can open our whole home run manifold. Let's just crimp these last ones, then we can fire up every circuit in the home run manifold. Okay, here goes nothing. Let's turn on every circuit and see if we have any leaks. Really hope we don't. It's gonna sound kind of sketchy while these all fill up. The showers. Don't hear any trickling. Ice maker. The sink right down here. Whoa! Totally forgot to do these ones down here. I'm so dumb. Good thing more water didn't come through here. That cap flew across the roof. I knew I was forgetting something. Oh, that thing's lost, so guess I'll have to find another one. That was funny. Yeah, I got to do all three in this bathroom. Almost forgot about these. Well, I guess I did forget about them. That was so much pressure. Pretty amazing what these little crimps can hold. All right, shop lab take 2. That one was much less eventful. Bath number 2, toilet. I think this is the toilet down here. Now on to hots, kitchen sink. Water heater's gonna kick on. Water heater doesn't really know what to do. This is the equivalent of someone just turning the faucet on and off a million times. Finally, the shop lab. All right, that is officially all the circuits. We appear to be looking good. No leaks, I'll take it. I wasn't really expecting any, considering these have no joints in the lines. Looking good in the bathroom too. Now the last step before our plumbing rough-in inspection, and probably one of the most important, is putting on nail plates. So anywhere these pipes come within an inch of the edge of the stud, they are at risk for a drywall screw or a baseboard trim nail coming through and hitting them. So I have these 16 gauge nail plates. I've already put them in a couple of locations where this PEX tubing is close, but they also need to go in front of our drain lines too. The rule is they're supposed to extend 1.5 inches beyond the edge of the tubing along the length of the framing member, and then at top and bottom plates, they're supposed to come at least 2 inches above and below the top and bottom plate. That's so baseboard and crown molding nails, which will hang a little bit below that top plate, they don't hit the pipe. There's ample protection below the top plate as well. These things are really easy to put on. They're self-nailing, just have a couple spikes, knock them in, and it's pretty cheap insurance. Not to mention, you're gonna fail your plumbing inspection without them. So this PEX tube is clear because it's far enough from the edge of the stud, but this 3-inch drain pipe certainly is not. This is a 5 by 8-inch plate. That is it on water supply piping. I have my plumbing inspection scheduled in 2 days. I feel pretty happy with how this turned out. I think the inspectors can be kind of impressed, especially that a total amateur did it. So we'll see how it goes.
2 days later.
So today was the big day, the plumbing inspection, all the rough ends, both the supply and the drain lines, and I am very happy to say that we passed. There were no issues. The inspector took a look at everything, and you'll get a kick out of this. When he was done, he actually offered me a job because he's very impressed with our situation. Obviously, it's not a very common thing what we're doing. So he's definitely never seen someone as young as me doing work like this, that I really, take my time and make it look good. It's not something that's very common these days when it comes to building. So yeah, he wanted me to come be a building inspector. So I guess if content creation doesn't work out, I can always be a building inspector. So I've drained the stack for the last time, and now I can remove the plug. It's gonna be nice to get this all closed up. I can finally put my clean out cap back on. That's what this is, just need to put a coupler on that. I'm pretty psyched though to have this plumbing inspection done because this means we can install a toilet. So we're gonna put a toilet and the utility sink down here in this half bath, which will be really, really handy because we got rid of our porta pot like, I don't know, 6 months ago. So it's been a pain to both be here and then also have other people over, like contractors. Actually, I guess I haven't had any contractors here since we got rid of our porta pot, mostly for that reason. Things definitely slowed down though in the winter time, so it was fine. That thing cost us like $100 a month to have that porta pot, so it is what it is. All right, we're getting her. She's emerged. All right. This thing did a great job. Very impressed with this little guy. Definitely gonna hold on to it for future testing. Hopefully we never have to use this, but it's always good to have a clean out outside the house if you do, because definitely don't wanna be cleaning it out from the inside where poops can be backing up. I think it's actually code too to have one within 3 foot of the outside if you don't have one on the inside or something like that. I have one both here and at the end of the line on the inside, so I think I'm gonna be covered. That's it for plumbing for now. As always, thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.